So I had, I'll just say it this way. After 9/11, I experienced what a lot of people, I think, experience, which is the questioning of their faith. And I was raised Catholic, went to a Catholic grade school and then a public high school. And I'd say, we went to church every week and did that thing. But after 9/11, it just sent my world into a tizzy a little bit. And so I started to explore, or questioning everything. And I actually got really far. And I would say I'm still at this point, which was I regard myself as almost an atheist. And I also would back that up with the fact that I'm barely a believer. And the reason I'm almost at a holding point. And it's because as I started to unpack all the religious, stuff that I learned, it was so easy to shoot most of the stuff down. Evolution, I totally buy into that. I totally buy into Big Bang. I totally buy into almost all scientific, theories, at least the ones that are, consensus driven.
So what's the last holdout?
Yeah, well, that's what I want to talk about. So I finally got to the point, and I was looking over the what I call the chasm to atheism, and at first I thought it was going to be just a small jump, but it ended up becoming a big chasm. And here's where I came. The question I asked that I couldn't, in terms of probability, say with confidence was: is there a purpose to the universe? And so that I whittled all this down to a point where I said, okay, in order to and this I may already be an atheist, by the way. I was going
to say, did you come up with a purpose for the universe?
I was going to ask also, what do you think atheism is? Because it's just, I'm not convinced there's a God.
Well, that's the first, and maybe it's because I've been brainwashed into thinking what atheism was or wasn't. But I heard that for the first time on your show, the definition that says that atheism is, or people that are not convinced there's a God.
Right.
And what I always had the definition of atheism to be is people are convinced there is no God.
Right.
Which is a very different thing.
It is different.
It's a subset, and it may be the case. It gets labeled a lot of different things, but we don't have to go through all the labels. If you believe in a God, you're a theist. And if you don't believe in a God, you're an atheist. Or a non-theist. I don't even care about the label so much as what it is that... So it's this issue of purpose. Now, a good friend of mine named Chris Johnson did a big coffee table book. I think it's still at theatheistbook.com. And it was... A Better Life. A Better Life. It's like 100 atheists giving their thoughts on joy and meaning and purpose in a world without God. And there you get to hear from real people discussing their view on this issue of meaning and purpose. As far as I can tell, there's no intrinsic purpose in the universe. There's no reason to think that the universe was created or has an intent or has any goal or purpose for your life. And that really terrifies some people.
No, it doesn't. And it doesn't terrify me. And further, I don't think it's obvious that there's no purpose. And the reason why, and I'll say this kind of definitively, and then we can discuss it in more detail.
Well, you just
you
just said
what's that?
You just said that you don't think it's obvious there's no purpose. And my point wasn't there's no purpose. My point was I don't see any reason to think there is a purpose. So we're with the same thing with regard to a God as we are with a purpose. Purpose would need to be demonstrated.
I would say there is no greater than a 50% chance that the universe has a purpose than if it doesn't.
Okay, so I don't know how you're doing math or why you're doing math. The point is, if there is a purpose to the universe, that's something that would have to be demonstrated, and the time to believe there's a purpose is after it's been demonstrated.
Exactly, and that's exactly my point. So, and again, I'm struggling with this.
I think these are concepts.
I'm not going to beat you up over the language. I'm just trying to make sure we're clear.
I understand.
Well, so let me give you. I'm completely in alignment with you, and I got to this point.
Welcome to atheism.
The point what you just said. Well, but here's the thing, though. Here's where I'm still stumbling. And this is a really simple and probably silly analogy, but with regard to purpose, I was deep in thought, and I was watching a bird. As silly as that sounds, pick up sticks, and I thought, I know what that purpose. I know why that bird is. It's not because he loves sticks. He's not collecting sticks and putting them in a scrapbook. The bird is actually building a nest. Now, so to me, and you said it exactly, a purpose cannot be known until it is revealed. And so there is just as much evidence to me that the universe is working towards a purpose than there is it's meaningless and not going anywhere. Because there's time.
I don't understand that.
Well, did you hear do you understand what I'm saying about the bird instance, where if you look at a bird,
a bird can have purposeful action, and that tells me nothing about whether there's some intrinsic purpose to the universe. Nothing.
Exactly. Well, no. My analogy is this. I'm not saying that the bird proves there's a purpose to the universe. What I'm saying is the universe could be in the same as we are today, as we exist today. We don't see a purpose, right? It's not obvious to us, but maybe there is an end game for which we have no clue about that will materialize in the future.
So, sure. So the time to believe there's a purpose is after it's actually materialized. But the thing is, I could never say there's just as much evidence for something as against it when I don't see any evidence for it. I see no evidence for this notion that the universe has some intrinsic purpose. Because
what about evolution?
Evolution doesn't have a purpose. Evolution.
How do you know that?
Evolution because evolution is a change in allele frequencies over time. Evolution is random mutations that are impacted by natural selection, the forces around this. Evolution isn't moving towards a goal. This is all definitional within evolution. Evolution is not moving towards a goal, which means there's no purpose.
I don't see that's where I'm sitting there thinking, how can you? Because we aren't to the end game necessarily of evolution.
You're assuming there is an end game. That you don't get to assume there is an end game, because that, by definition, is assuming that there's a goal or purpose.
Well, my point is that if we argued about probabilities, or let's just say, probability is the best word, whether or not there is a purpose or isn't.
Okay.
I think I could argue based on, and I think I view, and this is probably just a worldview perspective, is that when I look at evolution, I think it's going somewhere.
Okay, that's now. First of all, that's false. Second of all, that's an opinion, not an argument for something.
Well, right. I'm not a scientist. Right?
Clearly.
No,
and I don't mean that derogatorily. I mean,
no,
we're talking about.
Well,
this.
I think this is.
I'm not a scientist either.
The problem. Yeah, and I think this is the problem with what I'm having with a lot of.
What do you think the purpose of evolution is?
I think. I don't know.
Well, okay. This is the thing. This is the thing. You're saying you are convinced that evolution is moving towards a goal. Why?
No, I'm not convinced.
I swear you just.
No. I said there's a 50% chance that evolution is moving toward a goal, and there's another 50%. So it's a flip of the coin. Now
earlier you said that there was either evidence with regard to the universe having a purpose. I thought just a couple minutes ago you said you were convinced that evolution had a purpose, which is why I said that was an opinion. I'm pretty sure that you did, but I'm pretty sure that you did. We can always rewind and check.
I didn't mean it.
But let's just toss it out.
I didn't mean it.
So you think
let me clarify.
You think there's a 50% chance that evolution has a purpose. I don't know why you're putting a number on it.
That's correct.
But what I'm asking over and over again is, what do you think the purpose is, and why do you think there's a purpose?
I don't know. I don't know what the purpose is. All I know is there could be a purpose.
Then I apologize, but I'm not interested in opinions where people are going to spout numbers and say, this is what I'm convinced of, and when I ask them why they're convinced, they say, I don't know. There's no discussion there.
Well, yeah, and I understand exactly what you're saying. The problem I'm getting hung up in is to make a decision on whether or not there's a purpose in the universe depends on me being confident that there is no purpose.
See, and that's what I'm
Why?
saying. That you're doing the same thing with regard to purpose that you were previously doing with regard to God. You're not going to be an atheist until you're convinced there is no God. The point is, you should not believe that there's a purpose until it has been demonstrated there is. You should not be sitting in a position.
If we're in the middle
you should. What if we are? What if we're not?
There's no reason to believe that we are, is the
that's my
point.
point.
So the point is, you should not believe.
If I have absolutely no reason to believe that something is the case, why would I say that it has a 50% chance of being the case?
The only reason that
We don't know everything.
Okay,
But that
agreed.
doesn't make it just as plausible as not being the case when there is zero evidence that it is the case.
Well, so
It's like saying that there's a
let me ask you question about
50%.
atheism.
Okay.
So let me ask you a question about atheism, because I'm willing to proudly tout that I'm an atheist. But here's the thing I hang on to, and and there is, to me, it's the possibilities of things. One of which, so I look at possibilities.
There is no requirement for anybody to give up possibilities. Here's what happens.
Okay.
If you give up the possibilities, you are asserting that something is impossible, which is even stronger than asserting that you believe it's false. You're saying it's impossible.
Right.
No, there is no requirement within. First of all, atheism has no requirements. It is simply, I am not convinced there is a God, or in some cases, I believe there is no God. But even if you were convinced, as I am, as many people are, that there are no gods, or that the gods that have been proposed aren't actually real, that doesn't mean that you're convinced that it's impossible. So nobody's asking anybody to give up possibilities. But what I am saying is, if you're just going to try to sit in this weird limbo of, oh, well, let me not commit, because nobody's asking you to commit to anything, because I don't know whether we're in the middle of the end game or the possibilities. It's all it's chaos. I don't know what's going on. Then you don't know, and by definition, you cannot be convinced.
Yes. So I think the thing I achieved clarity is this definition that I was not familiar with, which was atheism is being not convinced there is a God, which counters to what I've heard by theists, from my theist friends, that atheism is being convinced that there is no God.
Yeah, imagine that.
Hearing you say, right? Well, yeah. And so
it's because from the theist perspective, it needs to be portrayed as you need to make a choice. You either choose, for example, Jesus in life, or you choose the devil in destruction. You need to believe, to know that you know that you know that you know that Jesus Christ is your Lord and that there's a God, or you are in absolute denial and denying all possibility and arrogantly presuming that you know everything. Yeah. The atheist position, the non-theist position, is the least arrogant of all positions, because I don't think I'm a special creation. I don't think I'm a special creation. I'm not asserting knowledge that I don't have. I'm not demanding that people take unskeptical positions on anything. I am unconvinced of a God, and I am only willing to be convinced if there's good argument and good evidence. And simply saying, well, we don't know, or it may be possible, or we could be, none of that is good enough evidence to believe in any of that.
And I completely subscribe to that philosophy. So I guess I'm an atheist.
Awesome. Okay. issue resolved.
Well, here's one. If you have a minute, the other thing I would argue, and now let's say I'm proclaiming I'm an atheist, but I do argue still that I don't know that we're better off in a world of atheists than we are with a world of theists.
Sure, I don't know either.
There is no. Okay. And so, if you think that can be,
I am convinced though that we would be better off in a world full of secular humanists than we are with a world full of people with competing religious ideas that are conflicting and anti-human.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it might be a zero-sum game, is what I think, because I participate in and see, and I don't know if I don't know what your exposure is to all the beautiful things that theists do. Now, the argument is, well, wouldn't secular humanists do the same thing? Well,
they do the same things.
Well, but here's my problem with that statement: is there's more evidence that theists do more of those things.
No.
I mean,
this is the problem. This is the problem. This is lying with statistics. The fact that there are more religious people, the fact that there are more religious people who have had a preferential privileged status in the West, in particular, for a longer period of time, the fact that people have been motivated to do things by their church organizations and things like that is irrelevant. You can't, it's like saying Donald Trump has more money than me. There's evidence that Donald Trump has more money than me. Well, he started with more money than me. Okay? You can't assume someone's value and contribution just based on the raw dollar amount.
Well,
if in fact Trump has not made nearly as much money as he thought, or not increased at a rate that I have, then I'm a better earner.
Like if we go to a country where most people are secular, most people who donate to charities and do good works are going to be secular. I mean, that's not even really an argument. It's just an observation.
Yeah, it's the fact there are more religious people, so you can't go by the raw number. And yes, I understand
Just
that
like
even
if there are more theists in prison, right?
Yeah, even if you go to percentages, though, you can say, religious people per capita donate more or do more or whatever. You still have to take into consideration that until very, very recently, there weren't opportunities for secular humanist charities to even have an audience to reach out to. It's such a small pool, and they don't have this. We don't enjoy the same tax-free status that religions do. We have to apply for nonprofit status as a educational organization or as a library. We don't just get a de facto this. We're also not coming on and passing the plate and telling people that if they give us money, they'll get rich or we'll donate to poor. What percentage of the money that goes to charitable efforts within churches actually gets to the recipients? You don't know, because churches have the privileged position of not having to open their books to the public. Is it 1 penny out of your dollar that actually gets to the needy, or is it 99? You don't know.
Yeah, I guess I'm seeing it from a pure mission. I've gone on mission trips, and I've done so. I'm definitely speaking from my own experience.
Sure, I've seen it from both sides. I went on mission trips. Yeah.
Well, it reminds me of Rebecca Fitsum. Like, that's what I think of right away.
Yeah.
So there was a woman in the atheist community who her house was destroyed by, I think it was a tornado, and Wolf Blitzer was on site doing reporting, and he went to interview her and asked her, don't you just thank God that you and your family got out alive when you look at this stack of toothpicks behind you that was your house? And she was just like, yeah, no, I really just kind of am glad that we're okay. And he's like, yeah, he goes, but don't you just thank God? And she goes, I'm an atheist. She goes, I'm an atheist.
Not even close.
Well, wait a minute, you didn't let me finish. She says, I'm an atheist.
Okay.
Now, what Rebecca went on to do is she has started a first responder group, a secular first responder group that goes to emergency areas and offers emergency services, kind of like the Red Cross, except it's all secular. So this was a woman who herself went through this situation, saw how there's all this assumption and there's all these religious groups doing these situations.
And doing it wrong.
Yeah, she's like, where is the secular community here? And so she stepped up and she inserted the secular community, and she created an organization that is now active in this.
And there's atheists helping the homeless and feminists at work here in Austin all the time doing stuff.
I'm sure there is. I'm sure I'm not here to argue that there are some atheists that are doing things.
There are some Christians who are doing things. That's not the point.
Right. I know. So here's my right. I'm dealing with the fact that I believe it might be a zero-sum game in that either way you are going to end up with bad people and good people.
Of course.
And religion does not create more bad people than good people.
I disagree with that.
I disagree with that too.
Yeah, I disagree.
And there's a famous quote from Weinberg that says, without religion, good people would do good things and bad people would do bad things, but it takes something like religion to convince good people to do bad things.
Yeah, my religion tried very hard to get me to adopt all kinds of heinous views and beliefs about people and prejudices, and there are people who adopt those things and who go out and promote those things even though they think, I don't think this is right, but God knows better than I do, so I go ahead and just say gay people, shouldn't be allowed to get married because that's what my church says.
Hang on, no. Hang on.
Okay, yeah.
When a kid comes to us and says that when he told his parents he was an atheist, they kicked him out of the house and we have to find him a new house, do you think there's any strong likelihood that those parents would have kicked that kid out of their house if it weren't for the religious instruction they believed?
Do you guys realize how rare that is?
Do you realize in our mail how not rare that is?
Do you know how in the secular community it's zero?
Are you telling me? Are you
Zero.
telling me that you have every? No. Listen. Are you telling me you have every case of every a religious person that kicked their kids out because they said they were atheists, and you can compare that to all the parents that embraced that, and what you're hearing?
Wait, you were asking about whether we believed religion could get people to do bad things, and Matt is giving you an example.
Oh, no, I agree it does.
That is religion motivating a parent to do something a parent should never do just because of what their child thinks.
What I'm saying is there's more positive.
It doesn't matter. This is lying with statistics again. You can't go to the more.
No.
You have to do a comparison.
That's what.
No, fucking no. What in secular humanism could ever encourage people to do bad things?
I don't know secular humanism.
Then you should look.
But
because I find that there's nothing within secular humanism that can encourage people to do bad things, and yet I have yet to see a single religion that doesn't include encouragement for people to do bad things. Not one.
And I get it. Let me ask you one more question, and then I'll let you go because I know you got some other folks to talk to. One of the things that I look to in understanding human, progress and evolution is ways that we develop to understand each other. And one of the things that I think is profound that I haven't seen any other, whether it's atheist or religions, is talk about forgiveness in a sense. And I guess I was wondering what your thoughts are.
Somebody emailed and asked me about this just the other day.
Yeah. What's your thoughts around forgiveness and how it...
There's absolutely nothing, there's nothing about forgiveness that is incompatible with secular humanism. Secular humanism is based on the idea that we are in this world. We don't get to appeal to a God. We have to find a way to live cooperatively and to create a better, more productive society. If, in fact, it is shown, and I think it has been, that there are benefits to forgiveness. There are benefits to... if I forgive someone, I no longer maintain that strife within my life. It benefits me. It can potentially benefit that person. We know this to be the case. And so there's encouragement for forgiveness in secular humanism.
Yeah. Well, how about on a more extreme scale of forgiveness?
What about on an extreme scale? I didn't even give a scale.
Right.
I just said that said I'm fine with forgiveness, and so is secular humanism. And then you want to say, what about on an extreme scale?
My question was more about how it came about. How
what came about? I'll tell you exactly how forgiveness comes about. I forgive you.
Yeah.
That's it.
That makes no sense. Because what is forgiveness?
That is, when I say that I forgive you, that means I am no longer going to hold your action against you, and I'm not going to bottle up in me to where it affects my life.
That's what forgiveness is. A pragmatic action in a social group. If we all decided that every time, revenge is a very detrimental action in a social group. There are small social groups where there are actually like family revenge cycles going on where they kill almost every member of every family. Revenge is not a good idea, and forgiveness is kind of a requirement if you're going to have a social group. Otherwise, eventually everyone's going to leave because you're going to have a problem with someone and not forgive them and then not cooperate with them, and everyone walks away. So you have...
What about murder? How about murder?
Oh, my gosh.
What difference does it make?
Well, no. Let's look at a particular case where my wife is murdered by another person.
Sure.
Do you think it makes pragmatic sense to let that criminal, to forgive that criminal and let them go on with their life?
Who says let them go on with their life? You're talking about forgiveness, which is simply not holding, a grudge against them for what they did. It doesn't mean that you ignore what they did.
It doesn't mean we're not going to lock up somebody who's dangerous or engage in act.
No. I'm talking about what forgiveness really is, which is it's more than just not having a grudge.
If you're saying that forgiveness is taking people who are a demonstrated threat with a high potential for recidivism and just letting them out in the general population, that would be a hideous thing. Okay, well then I don't understand what you're saying.
When you start talking about what forgiveness really is, I already talked about forgiveness and gave you an example. Is my understanding of forgiveness wrong?
Yeah.
Okay, what is forgiveness then?
Forgiveness. Well, I mean, I don't think we can go into it in
then goodbye.
Short time.
Then goodbye.
No, I'm just telling you.
You don't get to tell me. You don't get to pretend that we didn't answer your question and that we got it wrong. You either tell us what we're wrong about on the forgiveness, or I'm done.
Yeah, and we need to move on to some other calls, so we're going to let you go. But thanks for calling, Brian.
All right.
Okay.